What was the most blatantly incorrect thing a teacher of yours tried to pass off as fact? When I had just started the 7th grade, my science teacher tried to teach us that dolphins didn't have blowholes. We were comparing sharks and dolphins, and when I pointed this out as a difference, he said I was wrong. And the whole class called me stupid for thinking they did. The next day I brought in a printed sheet with photos of dolphins having and using their blowholes, and he apologized and corrected himself in front of the class. At least he apologized and corrected himself. That speaks highly of your teacher. Had a history teacher try to explain that one of the reasons the North won the Civil War is because they had jet fighters. He didn't actually believe it, he was just trying to see how many people were paying attention. At least one person was not. Buddy of mine is a history teacher. He once gave Testacles the name of a Greek philosopher. Nobody called him on it. He told them next class that if they wrote down testicles in their notes, they should cross it out. Had a teacher in community college tell us there are 60 billion smokers in the US. My buddy and I were only ones in the class that began to laugh. I raised my hand and said there are 6 billion people on Earth. Are you sure you don't mean million? She assured us again no, 60 billion, with a B. That the American flag only has 49 stars. I live in England, so it isn't like we pledge allegiance every day. I was adamant that there were 50, and she denied it and docked me marks on the quiz. 10 years later, a friend of a friend ended up working with her and she remembered the incident. She realized halfway through the argument that she was wrong, but felt she couldn't back down to a 12-year-old. If it happened between the 4th of July, 1959 and the 3rd of July, 1960, then there were 49 stars on the flag. That the Iliad and the Odyssey were based on the Bible. When I asked how that could possibly be accurate, she just smiled and told me that the New Testament was written in Greek, as if that proved her point. Checkmated /10. Not me, my brother. When we lived in Virginia, his teacher tried to tell him that bison were extinct. He objected and told her that not only are they still around, he's seen them. There's a farmer about 20 miles from our hometown that raises them. Plus there's tons out in South Dakota. His teacher got mad and told him he was wrong, and for telling lies in class he got 2 days detention. That's a crazy thing to get detention for, even if he had been incorrect. That Jupiter was bigger than the sun. It looked that way on the poster we had of the solar system in our classroom, but that crap is obviously not to scale. But nope. Our 3rd grade teacher insisted that Jupiter was bigger, because you can see from the poster that it's true. Yeah, and an elephant is bigger than a moon. After a lesson on how water is an insulator, I asked how people are electrocuted in tubs pools. His answer was that the electricity traveled along the surface of the water. For a while there, I honestly believed staying under the water would save you. The correct answer, of course, is that while pure water is a horrible conductor, most water isn't pure. And, also, even if you start with pure water, it's such a good solvent that it'll pick up ions and become conductive very quickly. After a Muslim visits Mecca, he changes his name to Mohammed. In 7th-8th grade, I had a substitute geography teacher for about 2 months that actually tried to convince us that the phoenix bird lives in the equatorial forest. She was really surprised when someone showed her that it was actually a myth. Pretty sure it's the phoenix bird. That helicopters aren't supposed to be able to fly. Apparently nobody can explain how they fly, and it's all just a happy accident. That helium is in fact a molecule consisting of 6 hydrogen atoms. Didn't help that it was during one of my final exams, and he gave me a bad grade for the exam. He. One textiles teacher I had once claimed a cube to be a 2D shape, but hold on. It wasn't even that. She made a simple mistake, as one of the girls in the class even said, "Isn't that a 3D shape, miss?" As to which she replied, "No." God, I was laughing hard. We were all about 13 at the time, so we all knew she was wrong. Not me, but my sister. When she was in 5th grade, her teacher taught the class that any number divided by 0 was equal to the first number. That is, 9/0 equals 9, which is just blatantly wrong. Because that would mean that 0 equals 1 and then our number system would fall apart. Anyway, my sister called the teacher out on it, but the teacher just told her that in grade 5, 9/0 is equal to 9. No matter how he was approached, The answer was always the same. My professor dad heard about this and went to the teacher to ask her why TF she was teaching this. And guess what she gave for an answer? In grade 5, 9 divided by 0 is 9. I'm surprised my dad didn't flip a table. That's the angriest I've seen him in a long time. My mom flipped out when 2 successive teachers in a row told my sister that 9/0 equals 1. We went to a private elementary school for gifted students. Most of the teachers certainly weren't gifted. My science teacher got upset and sent me out of class when I tried to tell them that protons and neutrons weren't fundamental particles. In 3rd grade, a teacher told me that the word bus has 2 S's. I got points taken off my paper because of misspelling the word, and she refused to give them back even when presented with a dictionary. We had a spelling bee once and I was kicked out for spelling than instead of then when the sentence clearly used than. Well, the winning word was tractor, which I never would have gotten. High school anatomy teacher made us label the funny bone on a worksheet. She got into a pretty heated argument with students when they said there isn't an actual funny bone in the human body. The upper arm's quite humorous though. In 5th grade, a teacher told the class that Japan was in the Atlantic Ocean. He managed to get the class on his side until I pulled down the giant map and showed him. Felt so good. Man, Japan really had to go far out of their way to bomb Pearl Harbor. I was dating my social studies teacher's son in high school. One day, I was at her house and she asked me if I was ready for the test next week. I said yes. So she gave me a quick, verbal, 3-question quiz. One of the questions was, what is laissez-faire economics? I said it was free market economics wherein the government does not interfere. She said I was wrong and told me it was the opposite of that. I let it go because she was my teacher and my boyfriend's mom and I didn't want to get into it right then. My boyfriend, however, ripped into her and we ultimately got out the textbook and she saw she was wrong and was super angry and embarrassed. She was not the best teacher. Well, I mean, at least your boyfriend seemed to be somewhat smart and not given to that kind of stuff. Not in the spirit of the question, but in high school my driver's ed class moved classrooms multiple times. After every move, the teacher acted as if we'd always been in the current classroom and threatened detention for students who questioned this. One student was late to class because she'd absent-mindedly gone to one of the old classrooms. She told the principal why she was late and got suspended for 3 days for telling lies about her teacher. But we've always been at war with Eurasia. When my mom was getting her teaching degree in the 80s, she was told that children cannot feel feeling that they don't know the word for. Thus, a child could not feel empathy if they didn't know that word. This was a theory thought up and pushed by a senior professor at the school. My mom said she got into so many arguments about how the theory is absurdly incorrect. Dang my parents for teaching me the words hunger and pain. Dang them. Yes, finally, my HS chemistry teacher tried to teach that water is easily compressible. When I disagreed, she put her finger in a cup of water and said, "See, I'm compressing the water." Oh, you're right. My knowledge of this subject must have been displaced. I had a history teacher in 10th grade and we had a test on World War II. There was an extra credit question. What is the name of the bomber in our textbook? It was the picture of the Enola Gay B-29 Super Fortress, but the book called it a flying fortress, the name of the B-17. So I answered the Super Fortress because that was its proper name. He marked me wrong and his answer was the question asked what it was called in the book, not what its correct name is. Jaw drop. I was too rebellious for straight A's, but a test on the crap I really know well and he's gonna pull a bull's answer so I don't get everything right. Yeah, Mr. Shrek, really his name. Bite me from beyond. Well, there was one teacher, not a history teacher, who insisted Belgium, where I live, was spared during both world wars. She claimed that no fighting had taken place in Belgium. I still am as passionate about history as I was then. That's why I want to be a history teacher, and unable to make her change my mind, I basically wrote a paper about the Battle of Passchendaele and Battle of the Bulge, and facted the crap out of her. I like being right. Things I know about Belgium. Beer is good, chocolate is good, Flemish is a weird version of Dutch. My health teacher at a community college was speaking about bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. She got to ringworm, and said this one is very important and very easy to remember. You can tell what it is by its name. It's a parasitic worm. I raised my hand and said that I thought I read in the book that it was a fungus. Trying to be polite by letting her know she was wrong. She told me no, because why else would it be called a worm? I got my revenge though. On my final project, I compared obesity rates between USA and Germany. I'm German so it made sense. I asked her if it is okay if I name my project the word fat in both English and German, but not telling her what it translated to. She said fine, but was extremely pissed off when I brought up my PowerPoint with the title Fat Dong. You could have picked fat for German, but you still made the right choice for revenge. That a harvestman, or daddy long legs, was a spider. I said it wasn't, and she insisted it was. She said it is a spider, count the legs. I said an octopus has 8 legs but that doesn't make it a spider fish. I got detention. Worth it. This probably stems from the fact that there are 2 daddy long legs. One, the kind you are talking about, are arachnids but not spiders. The other, falsity, are spiders. These are the ones I am most familiar with. Semen is stored in the ovaries was on a final study guide for a health class I took in high school. When I challenged it, the other health teachers had a huddle and came back to tell me that sperm do in fact live in the ovaries. I asked my high school Spanish instructor how to say vacuum cleaner and she told me that it was cleaner de vacuma. I was pretty sure that the Spanish word for clean was limpia or limpia, so it sounded very made up. I consulted the English-Spanish dictionary and learned it is actually aspirata. I guess she just didn't want to admit she didn't know the word for it. Pangaea is the apparently a liberal fantasy built upon no other assertion aside from South America looking like it should join up to Africa. I tried arguing about the fossil records of the remains of indigenous creatures of one country being found in others, but he wouldn't hear it. I had a college roommate from Texas who went to a private Christian high school. She says her science teacher told them that the ozone layer hole over Australia exists because that's where God stuck his hand in to make the world. My 3rd grade teacher in Southwest Virginia was teaching us a lesson about airplanes and the entire time she spelled propeller as propeller. Finally I decided to say something and she told me this was how it was spelled in the dictionary. So I grabbed the nearest one and showed her propeller and I got a timeout and no recess. And I got my balloon moved from green to yellow. Not the balloon D. In 5th grade, my teacher informed us that when you are born your brain is as smooth as an egg, and as you develop knowledge you gain more wrinkles. That was some stupid crap. That evolution wasn't real because it is preposterous to think that animals can mate with different species and form an entirely new species. If they did, then how come we don't have horse rabbits and whale salmon and kangaroo dogs? I got kicked out of class for trying to explain that isn't what evolutionary theory states at all, although kangaroo dogs would make awesome pets. The reason that tornadoes caused so much destruction in trailer parks was because they were magnetically attracted to all of the metal trailers. One of the freshman history teachers at my school tried to convince his students that the Holocaust never actually happened. Denying the Holocaust is a crime in many countries. My 8th grade history teacher was covering a part of World War II. I asked if we were going to cover the Tuskegee Airmen, seeing as how my grandfather was one. She stared at me and said she didn't know what that was. Weird, right? So I explained that they were the first black pilots to fly and she said that no such thing existed. I brought in proof and she went as far to say that no black men flew in World War II. Frick that teacher. We have a whole month devoted to black history and most people in the US still don't know crap about it. I wish schools would incorporate the civil rights movement, the whole civil rights movement, not just the end of it with Dr. King, into the yearly curriculum instead of glossing over it in February. I had a history teacher who really just wanted to coach baseball, teach us that the Iron Curtain and Berlin Wall were the same thing. He would not look it up to confirm. Humans evolved from dinosaurs. Also, that protons are the hormone that are responsible for giving us good moods. Luckily, he's a theology professor, not a science professor. Hey, at least he acknowledges those things, right? I know my post will be a bit off topic, Sorry, I am a science teacher, and I have seen students ask a teacher a question and instead of the teacher admitting they do not know, they will come up with all kinds of weird stuff to try and pass it off, and I cannot stand it. I have been in classes where students are smarter than me, and if they ask me a question I do not know, I simply say I do not know. But if you want to find out, we can look at it together at the end of the lesson or when you are free, as this will allow me to learn the topic if a student asks me a similar question. You're a good teacher. I'm late to this party, but I have to share. My second grade teacher insisted that hummingbirds do not have legs. I believed her for a while until my mother showed me multiple photos convincing me otherwise. This has been an ongoing family joke for my entire life. I still see my second grade teacher now and then and am reminded of this every time. In law school, it is legal to kill the homeless. What was the professor's reasoning? Every person has a legal personality, or personhood. This is made up of such things as marital status, legal capacity, domicile, nationality, estate, name, etc. The homeless have no domicile or estate, therefore they have no personhood, and therefore it is not illegal to kill them. My college is notorious for having sacred cows. These are decrepitly old professors with tenure that are never contradicted or reprimanded for what they do, because in their younger saner days they were legal all-stars. No one bothered to correct him. We didn't even flinch when he made that statement. We all just decided to quietly drop the class the next day. He went from 40+ students to 3, I think. With your last sentence, I wonder if he is just being lazy and said it to make his job easier, not having to deal with teaching 40+ students knowing full well no one was going to say crap. We were studying the Russian Revolution at about 14-15 years of age and the events of Bloody Sunday. The teacher tried to tell us the U2 song Sunday. Bloody Sunday was about that event in the Russian Revolution. We would just know it wasn't. This was in England, and a few in the class were Irish. Not me, but my son. At the age of 6, he came home one day from school and declared that there was not such thing as dinosaurs. I asked him where he heard that, and he told me that his teacher told the class. I went and asked the teacher if he had really said that, and he said yes, and that it was true. I asked him what about all the bones and skeletons that had been unearthed, and he said they were made up of paper mache and that it was a big joke people played on us. I just stood there in shock laughing. I then went home and straightened my son out as best I could. He graduated from college as an archaeologist. LOL. I had an American history teacher in high school say that the Transcontinental Railroad is the only single road from coast to coast. Apparently he never heard of Interstate 10. The sun is not a star, it's a planet. Got detention for disrupting the class and disturbing other children and the environment when I tried to correct her. I had an 8th grade science teacher tell me that humans have yet to break the sound barrier, and it likely wouldn't ever happen in our lifetime. This was 2006. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.